Hello, Bambaji here with another gate transit. On the 26th of May at 13:36 BST, the Sun transits into gate 16. This is the gate of enthusiasm, the gate of skills. We are told the great art of enriching life by the harmonic channeling of energy. This is what it says above the line in the Rave I Ching. So it's a throat gate, as you can see, and you know the sun is going through all of the throat gates as we transit through the quarter of civilization. This is a voice that says, I experiment or not. It also says, I identify or not. And it can be a voice that's very approving or very disapproving. You might remember some while ago now, we were looking at one of the logic gates and we said there's a lot of criticism within logic. So this is the approval or the disapproval. And I used to wonder why this gate had the voice of I identify. Because it's not a G center gate, it's the G center that we associate with the identity and with those sorts of qualities. So why identify here? But eventually, I realized it sunk in that if you want to master something, which is what gate 16 is all about, if you want to really get that mastery over your skills, you need to have some identification with it because of the effort that is going to be required for you to practice and practice and practice. So although this gate, as you can see, it's a throat center gate here and not the G, you can see why this theme of I identify comes through. So this gate between the splenic center and the throat, it's all about verbal manifestation. It's about talking through your logical findings and expressing your talent verbally in some way or other. Now, neither the splenic center nor the throat are motors. So this really is just about verbalizing. You know, it's coming out through the throat. There's no fuel here to actually do anything with what it is that you have, with whatever your skill is. We're in the understanding circuit here. This is all about patterns and focus, and it makes a very clear statement about the quality of talent. It is dependent on repetition. Constant experimentation, you know, over and over, goaded by that critical capacity that we find in this circuit, which wants to find the perfect expression. The understanding circuit is in the collective, and a keynote that we use for the collective is sharing. You know, talent is meant for sharing. The 16th gate is the gate of skills, and the hexagram represents the ancient Chinese hexagram of music, dance, and the arts. However, this isn't a gate that is specifically about the fine arts. It's actually having the skill for living. Yeah, that's one of its greatest gifts. It's the talent for life. So the 16th gate really then is very important because it's a primary gate of identification. And as I said, this is not about the gate of identity in terms of the G center, but it's about bringing a focus to your skill in order to maintain the energy that is needed to master it. There's really not much energy available in this circuit, not when it comes to direct connections from a motor to the throat for expression. Logic circuitry goes through the sacral and the root, but they're both some distance from where gate 16 is in the throat, waiting to express the skills that have come through, the experimentation that has come into mastery here. The repetition that leads to mastery is a very necessary part of the logic circuit. Something has to be repeatable in order for it to be viable, really, in many ways. You know, if you have this wonderful experience, but nobody else can experience it, then it's just for you alone. It doesn't have the value to the collective, which is what the collective circuitry really thrives on. It's what it requires. And so everything has to be in this logical side, it has to be repeatable. The experience side, There's no logic there. It doesn't want to repeat things. It just wants to do an experience, have it done and gone, which we'll see all about when we get into the next gate, which is gate 35 in the mirror of this 16. But here it's repetition. The experiment, in order to be logical, in order to have viability, in order for anyone to accept it, it must be repeatable. And so we find you can't just dip in and out of this, not if you really want mastery for the most part. It's about experimenting, correcting, experimenting. And you could reframe that process as just practicing. You do it over and over and over and over again. I have a godson. My godson is training to be a ballet dancer, and he plays the trumpet. Not quite sure how those two are going to marry, but we'll see what happens there. He's a manifester, and he has the 3635, so he's on the other side to this. And he's sort of the jack of all trades, and he is not remotely interested in practicing. Doesn't hit his radar at all, and it drives his teachers and his parents bonkers, because for them it's practice, it's practice, it's practice. That's the only way you're able to master your skills. It's not what he wants, really is not what he wants. Luckily, he is very talented. He just has that, he has it innately, that he is able to remember steps, and he is able to bring grace and beauty into what he does. But he is so much more interested in improvising. And every performance is different, and every performance has its own little nuance. He doesn't want to repeat what he's done before. So it's really interesting to watch how he is expressing that 35-36 when his teachers and his parents really want to condition him into the 16, the 1648, the whole logical side of practice, practice, practice. I play the ukulele. I'm not particularly logical in my design. I have 6 gates, dotted around through the circuit. And I know that I'm not going to be mastering the ukulele any day soon, because I do not repeat. I do not practice. I just don't have that focus, even though I've got the 9, which is what grounds this 16. It's a part of that logical circuit, and it's the format, it's the thing that programs the logical circuit, is to have focus and determination and concentration. And the other gate in the logical circuitry that brings this flavor is the 62, and I have that in my design, my personality Earth. So although I have these very strong indicators, I am not remotely interested in doing the repetition and the same thing over and over at the same time every day. I find that very difficult. I also have gate 15, which is the gate of extremes. So all of these things play in. Maybe if I had a whole channel, it would be different, but I don't. So I will enjoy the ukulele. I will never be sharing it with anybody else, because that's not why I play it. And yeah, we'll see let's see where that goes. But I won't be doing dancing with it either. So yeah, trumpet and ballet, that's going to be interesting. So, and of course, none of that means that if you don't have the 48-16 or any logical circuitry, that you can't master something and be skillful. I mean, that would be ridiculous. And we all have everything at some points, either through people we meet or through transits. We all experience all of these energies, It's just about our natural tendencies and what we have consistently. There is a lovely phrase that goes with the gate 16, and it's that sort of what would you call it, the reward, maybe, the reward of that repetition, the reward of that mastery. This is where the dancer becomes the dance. Let me share my screen and show you the next slide that I have. I'm trying to find a really seamless way of sharing screens. I haven't found it yet, but if you know what that is, please leave me a message. Okay, so we have the grounding here. The grounding to gate 16 is gate 9. And this is called the taming power of the small. And it's the gate of focus. And it really doesn't need a lot of explanation to see how that gate of focus grounds the gate of skills. It's what I've been talking about, really. So this is a gate that's in the sacral, and it brings some fuel here to focus. some. It has to go through, quite a lot of processes to get up to the 16 in order to help it come out. But there is some fuel in this channel for focusing and for concentrating. There are those two gates I said in this body graph that are gates of detail, both in logic circuitry. That's that 62, which is in the throat, pointing up to the ajna, and here the 9 in the sacral, pointing down to the root. Gate 9 tells us that potential can be fulfilled through detailed attention to all the pertinent aspects. Gate 9 is in what we call a format channel. So format channels, there are 3 format channels, and it's the 3 channels between the sacral and the root. And these are really special channels in that they imbue the entire circuit with their flavor when they're activated. And you don't need the whole channel, you can just have one of the gates. So here, gate 9 is giving everyone that little extra focus and determination. The entire logic system demands continued experimentation and testing, repetition and practice. And it is this power to focus which empowers the entire process. The 9th gate has the ability to tame the energy and to bring it into a narrow focus. It's taming the power of the small. During this sun's transit, we do have an entire channel activated for the whole time. And this is the 48-16 between the splenic center and the throat. So we have the 48, which is in the south node, and the 16, of course, is in the sun. And this is a channel called the wavelength, and it's a design of talent. So gate 48 is the gate of depth. And again, we have the themes of mastering a pattern, a system. We have repetition, we have hard work, we have the practical application as well. And we have a great commitment too. It is said that it takes 7 years to learn any technique deeply enough in order to be a master of it. In order for your art to be liberated from technique, it takes many years to hone it. 7-year cycles are mentioned in human design too. They're mentioned all over the place. There's a vast tradition of taking note of 7-year cycles. But in human design, we talk about the deconditioning cycle being 7 years. And it's not that we're done after 7 years. I have read things on social media that says 7 years and you're done, and it's 7 years to mastery. No, it's not. It really isn't. That's a cycle. And what happens at the end of a cycle, it's a new one starts again. You're not in the same place that you were when you did that first cycle. A lot of it will have changed, but you're not done. None of us are done until we're dead. And even then, who knows? Who knows what happens? Another cycle of a different sort. But, oh, my phone is ringing. How weird is that? Why is it ringing through my computer? Anyway, sorry about that. See, taming power of the focus of the small. Yeah, that'll come in eventually. So yes, in that 7 years of deconditioning, there are profound changes that happen in our body and happened in our mind and in our spirit. And it is estimated that 70% of people experience a major life change at the end of any 7-year cycle, not necessarily human design cycle. This is life cycles, so 7, 14, 21, 28, that major changes can take hold. I lost my focus completely with the phone ringing, isn't it? That's, yeah. Anyway, so 7-year cycles and change. This is one thing to take from this. So that's my overview for gate 16. The gate the sun moves through over the next 5 days. Do you have anything activated in this channel? If so, what is your experience of practicing? Or do you have to focus on your practice, or does it come naturally to you? And if you haven't yet mastered a skill in your life, how does that feel? Are you looking for something to master? It's, what's your experience around all of the different keynotes and qualities that we look at in Gate 16? If you do have something that you are skilled at, how much effort do you have to put into your practice? What's your experience there? There's so much about our life that we take for granted, either the gifts that we enjoy or even our weaknesses. Really, they're just part of us. We don't really take much notice of them. And there's so much conditioning too, of course. My godson, I mentioned earlier, the ballet dancing trumpet player, both of his parents are musicians and they work really hard at it. Neither of them have anything in this logical stream. And they're both very exhausted. It's very interesting to watch their process. And I wonder sometimes whether my godson would have gone to ballet school if he had not had that conditioning around him as he was growing up. Would he have picked up a trumpet? And I'm not saying for one moment that there's anything bad or wrong or negative about it. He's very skilled and his parents are very skilled. So anybody can have this impact. It's you don't have to have the 4816. It will just bring a different flavor into whatever it is you are experiencing or experimenting with, maybe. He's an example, that's all, my godson. And I've got no idea what he would be like with different conditioning or without the conditioning he has. And besides, it is what it is right now. So he's a good example and I'm grateful to him for that. Sometimes, though, we get forced into our parents' dreams, what they would have liked to experience when we were young. And there are so many opportunities these days in terms of after school activities and clubs and so on. It's a wonder and a delight. It wasn't like that when I was growing up. My parents also didn't have much of a disposable income. There were quite a few of us kids at home. And so there was nothing interesting available to me when I was growing up. My two choices I had were joining the Girl Guides and or learning to smoke. And as the two weren't mutually exclusive, I did both, as you do. So I will see you when we move into Gate 35 in a few days. And until then, go gently and enjoy your experimenting with the skills that you inherently have. Bye-bye.